The story starts with us seeing our main character, Park Chunjul, scaring away a few of his classmates from his sheer presence. However, he didn't intend to do so, but his physical presence is good enough to intimidate most people. We learn that Chunjul is a strong person who has learned mixed martial arts and knows how to fight properly. Alongside that, he also beat up 10 guys on his own on the first day of college. So, his goal to be just another average kid isn't coming along. Just then, he is called into the main office by the teachers. It is there that Chunjul learns of his father's passing away. Later, Chunjul has his father's possessions handed over to him, which includes a phone and a four-cut photo. We learn that Chunjul doesn't know his father, and his mother also died when he was just 4. So, he was brought up by his father's friend, Mr. Guangchul. Right then, as Chunjul is playing with his father's old phone, he gets a call. Though initially shocked, he picks up the call. The person who called claimed to be the owner of the phone, and Chunjul thought that the person was a scammer and ended up talking roughly with him. As the other person asks where Chunjul is, angry Chunjul tells him about the location and invites him to come and take the phone. Suddenly, Chunjul is shocked by the area around him changing. Gone were the skyscrapers, and instead were replaced by old-looking food stalls, and people were dressed and talking in a very outdated manner. At that moment, Chunjul is met by an aggressive-looking man who talks aggressively. The man asks Chunjul if he is the one, to which Chunjul denies having the phone, despite never being asked to have a phone. The guy discovers Chunjul hiding the phone and relays the information to another man. An attractive-looking man arrives, and Chunjul notices that the man very much looks like his father from the picture he saw before. At that very moment, Chunjul is met with a vicious left cross from the man called Park Si-hoo. Chunjul reminisces about Mr. Guangchul talking about how things were so fun in the past. People gather around to see the ongoing fight. We see Chunjul using some Brazilian jiu-jitsu as he locks Si-hoo's right arm into a well-maneuvered arm bar. Chunjul thinks that he has gotten the better of Si-hoo, as putting on a submission on a striker is the best way to subdue them. He wonders just what has happened, but he knows that the person is his father, who had abandoned him as a kid. He is extra motivated to inflict damage with his armbar, which he names the Father Twister. It is then that he once again remembers Mr. Guangchul talking about his past and just how rowdy everything was back then. But they never feared anyone because Chunjul's father was with them. Just then, we see Park Si-hoo digging down deep to hoist up Chunjul and slam him down hard on the street. This breaks off the submission and enables Si-hoo to retrieve the phone and work away. As the strongest man in Gandong is walking away, a beat-up Chunjul realizes just how talented his father was, but he still can't give up. So we see Chunjul getting up and asking his father for a proper fight. Si-hoo, being one not to back down, accepts the challenge and takes his usual boxing stance. Chunjul sees this and wonders just who uses boxing in this day and age, before opting for a more open grappling stance. Soon the fight commences between father and son. The fight starts with a quick jab from the southpaw Si-hoo, before a flurry of left and right punches from him. Chunjul is taken aback by the speed and power, but he knows what to do and sticks to his forward-out approach. Chunjul dodges an incoming punch and takes down his father before securing a full mount, ready for some ground and pound. We then see Chunjul thinking about his memories, how a poisonous gas leakage had killed his mother right after his father left home, and since that day he had never seen his dad. This motivates him to beat up his careless father, but it's his father who has the full mount now. As we see Chunjul being devastated by a barrage of punches, we learn that Si-hoo had reversed the mount from Chunjul by performing a neckbridge rollover, a move used by experienced jiu-jitsu and amateur wrestling practitioners. As Si-hoo gets up after beating Chunjul to a pulp, we see a sneaky Chunjul running away from the scene with the phone that he stole back while taking the punishment. Si-hoo realizes this and gets mad. He invites his entire group to gather and look for Chunjul. Meanwhile, we see Chunjul running away to a nearby cyber cafe. There he uses a computer to log into the internet and check the exact date. He finds out that he has traveled back to 2003. He wonders just what triggered this weird time-traveling case and why it happened. It is then that he thinks of calling someone in the future. He checks the phone and calls the number of Mr. Guangchul, but it is the Guangchul of 2003 who picks up the call and is very mad. Chunjul hangs up the call and wonders if he can call the future Guangchul by using his new phone number. He remembers that Guangchul had made him memorize his number just in case of an emergency. Chunjul dials the number and calls Guangchul of the future. The 40-year-old boxing gym director picks up the call and Chunjul explains the situation. Guangchul is surprised and concludes that it is a scammer calling just like Chunjul previously. Chunjul provides details details of the recent dates of Guangchul to prove it is him. Guangchul is still skeptical, but it is then that we see the 18-year-old Guangchul enter the cyber cafe, along with his friends to take out Chunjul. Chunjul makes fun of the 18-year-old Guangchul's looks. While he is making fun of him, Guangchul from the past tries to throw a right cross to Chunjul, but is intercepted with a leg sweep into a punch. This leaves the 2003 Guangchul in an injured state, and it also puts a permanent scar on his head, which can be seen in present-day Guangchul too. This makes the present-day Guangchul believe in Chunjul somewhat, and right then, another scar shows up on his head, thanks to the attack dealt to his past self by Chunjul. This makes Guangchul believe in the time-traveling story, and he tells Chunjul that he can save his dad if he can impact the future. This infuriates Chunjul as he doesn't like his father. However, Guangchul also says that he can save his mother through this, and at that very moment, a beautiful young lady comes face to face with Chunjul. Seeing her triggers Chunjul's memories of his mother, and he comes to tears realizing he just met his mother from the past. Minhui, Chunjul's mother, gets mad at him for staring at her like that. Chunjul is a bit wavered by how rough his mom is behaving, but he remembers his mom being very good with knives, so it makes sense. However, his mom always treated him nicely as a kid. At that moment, Choi Mungyu, one of Sihu's friends, takes Chunjul out with a wicked, lariat-esque move. Chunjul's head hits the floor and makes a sickening thud. Minhui tells Mungyu that he could have killed Chunjul with that, but Chunjul gets up from behind, visually angry from the attack that interrupted his little reunion with his mother, and just when he is about to attack Mungyu, Sihu comes from behind and hits Chunjul with a left hook and drops him again before leaving with his phone. Chunjul is left unconscious, and when he wakes up, he realizes he is lying on Minhui's lap. Chunjul gets startled and sits up. Minhui asks him how Chunjul knows so much about Sihu, and her name too. Chunjul is dumbstruck, and just when he is about to admit to being her son from the future, Minhui interrupts him and says that she is sure that Chunjul is a relative of Sihu. Chunjul then lies about being a hidden relative of Sihu who has never met him, and that he is worried about Sihu and how he is living with his grandmother. This makes Minhui emotional as she cares about Sihu and wants him to have more people to fall back on. Chunjul then asks just what Minhui likes about Sihu. Minhui is shy at first, but admits to liking Sihu for his good looks and strength. She further says that she can't pinpoint what she likes about him because she just likes him. Chunjul asks if she will marry Sihu and have children. Minhui says she would like just one child because she wants to love the kid to the fullest. This makes Chunjul tear up, and he wonders just why he is stuck in the past, but now that he is here, he must save his mother at all costs. He then says that he has to apologize to Sihu to Minhui and gets up. This is the plan for him to get the phone and call Guangchul. Meanwhile, in the present day, Guangchul has found valuable information and is waiting for a call from Chunjul. Sihu, on the other hand, discovers an unknown number on his phone and decides to call it. We see Guangchul picking up the call, but Sihu doesn't get to talk to him because he is interrupted by a huge group of people named the Sumsil fam. Meanwhile, we see Minhui taking Chunjul to the arcade run by Mungyu and his mother. She tells how this place is their haven, and how they have all their names imprinted on the floor, as the place means a lot to them all. Chunjul then meets Mungyu's mother, who looks a lot like her son. As they're going through the introduction phase, Minhui talks with the Guangchul of her time and learns that all of them are having a huge meeting with the Samsil fam. Minhui is mad that they're still talking after so many rejections and decides to go to the scene of the meeting. Meanwhile, Mungyu's mother greets Chunjul and gives him a can of soda. She talks about how the kids have helped her set up this place and run it because they're Mungyu's friends and Mungyu intends to be a good and responsible son. This makes Chunjul think that the guys are good at heart. Chunjul is then given coins to play one of the arcade games, and he decides to do so. The game is functioning quite well and Chunjul is enjoying what is ancient to him. It is then that we see another customer lash out at Mungyu's mother, saying that he is losing money due to her having faulty game machines and telling her to change them. On the other hand, we see the Samsil fam telling Sihu and the group to add a specific slot game to their arcade machines. They say that they'll be the ones maintaining it. However, Sihu is against putting anything gambling related on the machines. This makes the Samsil fam says that they'll have to change their machine. Cut to the arcade store. We see that the angry customers are members of the Samsil fam and they've started to destroy the machines. Sihu and Mungyu rush back to the scene. We see just how much hard work Mungyu and his mother had to do for them to establish this arcade, and how the other friends have helped them in doing so. However, upon arriving they see that the arcade isn't much damaged, and that all of the attackers have been dealt with by just Park Chunjul. One of the attackers tries to get back up, but Chunjul lands a lead hook to take him out for good. After helping them out, Chunjul decides to go away, but he is stopped by Si-hoo, who asks whether or not Chunjul is also from the future. This scares Chunjul a lot as he thinks that Si-hoo has figured out that he is a time traveler. However, he soon discovers that Si-hoo thinks that he is a student from a school called Future High, and Si-hoo thinks he is here to form a coalition with them, as he is being bombarded by questions regarding his identity and background. Chunjul turns the table by saying that Si-hoo and others should instead be thanking him for saving the arcade, and that if Si-hoo wants to know who Chunjul is, then he should give his phone to Chunjul, as he will use it call someone who would confirm Chunjul's identity for them. Just then, Minhui comes in to say that Chunjul doesn't need to do that, and that Minhui backs Chunjul. Later, we see Minhui telling everyone that she can't tell exactly who Chunjul is, but that she trusts Chunjul, and that if he had planned all this, he wouldn't have fought Si-hoo at first. Chunjul tells everyone that he is from the US, something he lied about to Minhui to get her sympathy and trust. He told her that he had to hide his relationship with Si-hoo because of his parents. She then tells everyone that most importantly, Chunjul saved the arcade and made sure Mengyu's mom didn't get hurt. This makes Mengyu come forward and offer a hand of friendship to Chunjul, and they both bury their hatchet. Then Minhui tells everyone to introduce themselves, and they do. However, Si-hoo still doesn't trust Chunjul and asks him to prove himself with the call as he said before, and Chunjul calls Guangchul to do so. We see Guangchul in a worried state. He says that something has gone extremely wrong. Chunjul says how he had saved the arcade, to which Guangchul says the destruction of the arcade is what led to Mengyu becoming a police to investigate crimes. However, now that the arcade is saved, Mengyu has gone on to become a lifeless gamer, and all the investigations he did on Minhui's case is gone. He then tells Chunjul that he has to make sure that the arcade is destroyed. So Chunjul now has to figure out how he needs to destroy the arcade even though he doesn't want to, knowing all the significance of the place. Just when he is processing all this new information, Park Si-hoo snatches the phone away from him and starts to talk with Jen, Guangchul of the future. Upon first hearing the voice of his dear friend, Guangchul tears up and thinks about how cool Si-hoo was as a person. Even though it is hard for him to comprehend, Guangchul starts talking to Si-hoo and tells him that he is a very close and old friend of Si-hoo's dad. Si-hoo is kinda iffy about this, but Guangchul starts spilling more details about their relationship, using his relationship as leverage. He talks about Si-hoo's childhood friend Guangchul and their adventures. He also talks about the food Si-hoo's grandmother made, and that was enough for Si-hoo to believe him and allows Chunjul to live the night at his place. Chunjul follows Si-hoo to his home, but also feels tired from all the uphill roads of the past and the fact that he had several fights the day, including one that was against 10 people. Upon entering the house, Chunjul feels weird about the bad living conditions that they have, and also about Si-hoo having the latest phone model. As they settle down to have their dinner, they're watching the news, which says Park Ji-sing, one of South Korea's all-time great footballers, is a player from PSV Eindhoven. This makes Chunjul say that Ji-sing plays for Manchester United, a club Ji-sing would later join in his career, which makes Si-hoo tell him to not spit nonsense. As their dinner goes along, Si-hoo asks whether Chunjul is close to his father or not, to which he replies by saying that he barely has any memories of his father. Si-hoo says that he still feels jealous because Chunjul at least has someone to call a father. Chunjul wonders how this is the first time he is opening up to someone about his dad, and that person is his dad from the past. Even though he felt like punching him when they first met, he is slowly understanding him. After the dinner, Chunjul goes out telling Si-hoo that it is a part of his regular schedule. As he goes for a jog, he feels weird about just what he has experienced in a day, from going to the past, fighting his father, saving the arcade, to now being given the duty to destroy it again. If he doesn't do it, he won't be able to save his mother, because it has caused her murder investigation files to disappear. However, he is fairly confident that he can save his mother because he knows what will happen in the future, like the Park Ji-sung transfer. But he can't overuse it because it'll cause a big butterfly effect like the one with the arcade. Just as he arrives near the arcade, Chunjul sees the guys from Silfam, whom he had beaten up before, but now they are with a rough-looking man who triggers some sort of memory for him from back when he was a kid. He hides from them and tries to think of who that person is, But it is not long before the rough-looking man finds Chunjul and approaches him. Chunjul is scared right away by the person and panics. Many of the group recognize Chunjul from the earlier fight he had with Park Si-hoo. One of the other guys tried to tell the rough-looking man about how Chunjul was the one who single-handedly beat up 10 of them. But that guy was punched right in the temple by the rough-looking man, taking him out. He says how the guy was bragging about getting beaten up and how he didn't like it. He then tells Chunjul that he looks like someone who works out and can fight, so he has a proposal for him. The man then proceeds to work Chunjul to a place with no one around, and they eventually arrive at a dark and empty warehouse. There he tells Chunjul that he knows that Chunjul saved the arcade due to ulterior motives. He thinks Chunjul is from another area trying to take over Gandong, but he doesn't care about it. He instead proposes that Chunjul join his side in destroying the arcade. That way, Chunjul can earn money from their slot machine business and also take over Gandong from Park Si-hoo. Chunjul agrees, knowing that this is his best chance to destroy the arcade, but he asks the person how he will destroy the arcade now that they've already tried once and failed. He says that they're used to sucking out the life of their enemies. They'll simply keep attacking them until they give up and lose all hope. Chunjul realizes that this must have happened after he saved the arcade. They kept on attacking them until one day the arcade crumbled. He learned from Guangchul that Mengyu went lifeless after being hit on the head, and he realizes that it must have happened during one of the attacks. He feels sorry for making the future worse than it already was and vows to fix it. He tells the person that he is ready, but he wants them to attack the arcade at that very moment because no one is around. The person laughs and tells everyone to turn the light on. It is then revealed that the warehouse is full of his people. He tells Chunjul that if he had disagreed with his offer, they would have killed him right away. They then move on towards the arcade to destroy it. Chunjul is okay with it because, with no one present, it will be easy to destroy the arcade without causing anyone to get physically hurt. Just as they're about to proceed, Minhui grabs Chunjul's arm, asking him just what he is doing alone at night. This makes the rough-looking person approach Minhui and talk to her rudely and inappropriately. He asks weird questions about Minhui and Si-hoo's relationship, and Chunjul thinks that it must be one of his mom's lovers. Chunjul then creates separation between the two, trying to move on with the plan, but just at that moment, Minhui spits on the face of the man, calling him Shintao-gi and asking just how long will he keep living a life like this. This heats up the situation as Shintao-gi gets mad. Despite getting angry at Minhui for spitting at him, Shintao-gi doesn't attack her. Instead, he calls her a whore, which angers Minhui and even Chunjul, but he manages to keep it under control to move forward. Next up, we see Mengyu and his mother cleaning up the mess that the goons made previously and talking about what to do. Mengyu wants to report these thugs to the police, however, his mother doesn't want him to do that, as that might cause more issues in the future. However, at that moment, we see the thugs enter the scene again to start the destruction. Mengyu rushes to them, but is shocked to see a guy with a helmet wearing the same jacket as Park Chunjul. Mengyu uses his judo skills to his fullest to take down the helmet-wearing thug. He stomps his head to break the visor, and to his surprise, it is not Park Chunjul. We learn that Chunjul is not going to be directly involved, but instead will be keeping tabs on what happens outside and inform them when needed. But they took his jacket as collateral just in case of a turn from Chunjul. We then see two thugs approaching Chunjul with baseball bats. However, Mengyu isn't one to back down, so he wants to fight. But the thug uses a baseball bat to hit Mengyu in the midsection. Mengyu tries to retaliate but is struck down by several baseball bat blows. He is hit on the neck, back, and head with the bat till he is struck down. Meanwhile, the other thugs are destroying the arcade machines one by one. One of the thugs also pushes away Mengyu's mother. Mengyu is broken down as he is left helpless with no ability to do anything. But just at that moment, Chunjul comes in to tell everyone that the police have arrived. This causes panic among the thugs, as they quickly evacuate the arcade. We then see a flashback with Chunjul thinking that the arcade doesn't need to be destroyed as long as Mengyu becomes a police. But Mengyu needs a reason to become the police, so he orchestrates this act to show the power of the police in protecting the people from these thugs. Back on, we see Chunjul telling Mengyu that he needs to become a police officer to protect his mother and the things he cherishes, because these thugs are scared of the police. We then see two thugs from before coming back, angry from knowing that Chunjul lied about the police, but this time, Mengyu takes them both by the skull and slams them straight onto the floor. Mengyu then vows to become whatever is necessary to protect his mother and the arcade. As more and more of the thugs come back in, we see Mengyu taking them all out with his judo skills and stiff lariats. We then see Taiki talking to himself about how strong Mengyu is, but behind him stands Chunjul. Taiki squares up to him, ready to take him on for the double cross. However, Chunjul is ready to beat up Taiki for what he has said before. He asks Taiki to say what he has said to Minhui again. We then see Chunjul taking a fighting stance, promising to hurt Taiki for what he said to his mother.
We see Chungil and Taiki squaring up to fight. Taiki goes in for the first attack of the duel. He tries to hit Chungil with a hard roundhouse kick, but Chunjil's guard is too strong to be penetrated. Taiki immediately follows it up with a spinning heel kick, which is once again blocked by Chungil using his forearms. Taiki realizes that Chungil is stronger than he thought. We get to know that Taiki is a former national-level taekwondo athlete, hence he attacks mostly with his feet. On the other hand, we see Sihu gathered with his friends, discussing how he hasn't seen Chungil after he had dinner at his place. They're wondering what could have happened. They also think about what happened to Minhui, who hadn't shown up yet. It is then that they notice a unit of police going somewhere. They soon realize that the police car is going to the same direction as to where Mungyu's arcade is. Back to the fight, we see Taiki land a hard back on Chungil, which is mostly blocked by him. However, the sheer impact makes Chungil go hit his back against one of the arcade machines. Taiki then trash talks with Chungil, asks him whether or not that is all Chungil had or not, despite being so full of himself. Chungil tries to retaliate with a left jab to Taiki. However, a slight momentary hesitation allows Taiki to dodge it. Right away, Taiki tries to strike with a knee, which is blocked by Chungil, but he wastes no time in going high for a kick to Chungil's face, which is also blocked but dealt damage to Chungil's arms. Chungil is taken aback and he wonders just why he feels a sense of danger whenever Taiki is around, how Taiki's presence can make his body flinch, which is reason why Chungil's hits haven't landed on the guy yet. It is then that Taiki calls Chungil a crazy F-word. This seemingly triggers a memory from the past for Chungil. Chungil thinks of the time when he and his parents visited their maternal grandparents' place. That is where his uncle, mother's brother, misbehaved with them and called them the crazy F-word. He went on to say that he didn't want to consider Chungil and his parents his family and that he would rather have them go away. Chungil thinks to himself, despite the similar usage of words and a similar accent, there's no way that this guy could be his uncle. Meanwhile, Taiki tries to hit Chungil with an axe kick, but Chungil dodges, which makes Taiki break an arcade console with his kick. Chungil thinks of the past again, where he sees his uncle betting on a football match and calling someone to get a massage done. A very young Chungil would stand just outside the room, which would piss his uncle off, and he would attack Chungil. It is then that Chungil realizes that it is indeed Shin Taiki who was his useless and abusive uncle. Taiki warns Chungil, calling him sly for his quick dodging, but says that even if Taiki manages to land one of his blows, it will be game over for Chungil. Chungil connects the dot and understands why all these strikes feel familiar and that Taiki wasn't hitting on his mom, he was just making fun of his younger sister. Chungil is conflicted, wondering what he should do. It is then that Taiki charges in saying that he knows more than kicking and that he will take Chungil out. Chungil then lands a picture-perfect left cross to the temple of Shin Taiki. Everyone is shocked, including Mungyu, who wonders just why the strongest of Sangil is getting beaten up as we see a flurry of punches being landed by Chungil on Taiki. Chungil thinks this is the greatest thing ever as he always wanted to attack his uncle for physically assaulting him when he was a kid. Chungil eventually locks Taiki in a rear naked chokehold. Chungil tells him there is no point in resisting as no matter what Taiki would do, he can't get out of it, he might even die if he tries too much. We see Chungil choking him out eventually as Mungyu, who has two opponents by their throats as well, wonder just how this unknown guy managed to beat Shin Taiki. Later on, we see the police arriving to the scene, arresting the people of Taiki's gang for launching an unprecedented and unwarranted attack on the arcade. Mungyu's mom explains to one of the officers what actually went down during the whole commotion, and we see that the media has also arrived at the scene to cover this gang violence case. We later see Shin Taiki being taken away by the police as he screams out saying that Chungil was the one beating him up and that he was nothing but a victim in this whole scene and that he needs a lawyer. We then see Chungil talking to Minhui and praising him for doing a great job by calling the police and how that helped it all. We learn that earlier it was Chungil who told Minhui to call the police. Minhui tells Chungil that she's just glad that things went according to Chungil's plan and now that everything is safe and the arcade hasn't been destroyed. We then see Sihu and his group coming to the scene, all raged up. Sihu sees Taiki talking trash as he is being taken away and gets more pissed off. He vows to kill Taiki off for good. His friends try to calm him down because there are police there, but to no good results as Sihu is hellbent on finishing off Taiki whether he is Minhui's brother or not. Chungil comes to intervene. He stops Sihu, but Sihu is still mad because of what Taiki had done to Mungyu and his arcade, but Chungil tells him to calm down and listen to what Mungyu has to say. We see the media interviewing Mungyu about the incident. They ask him how he dealt with the attack and how he managed to fight back with bare hands. He says that he just did what should have been done. The interviewer further asked that because Mungyu is a high schooler, what are his aspirations, to which Mungyu said that he wants to become a police officer to defend people. Chungil then tells Sihu that he should restrain himself, if not go and congratulate Mungyu for overcoming the attack and also finding his dream. He also says that he helped protect the arcade, but he doesn't want any praises, but wants to borrow Sihu's phone to call his father, which is a lie he tells to call Guangqiol of the future. Meanwhile, in the future, we see Guangqiol going to the police station again to ask if there was any police officer by the name of Choi Mungyu. The officers there get angry at him for asking the same questions and says that he will lock Guangqiol up if he keeps bothering them again and again. As Guangqiol is walking out of the station, he bumps into a big beefy man, the man in none other than Choi Mungyu, who is now a police. Guangqiol is happy and asks Mungyu if he had finally become a police officer. However, Guangqiol can't help but be flabbergasted by this sudden transformation of his friend, Mungyu. The last memory he had of him was rather sad, as Mungyu had become an out-of-shape, lifeless gamer. Mungyu smiles and tells Guangqiol if he doesn't remember the day where Mungyu was reborn, referring to the day when the arcade was attacked. He says that was the day he vowed to become someone who would protect others, so he will now protect his mother, village, and everything. Guangqiol still can't help but be surprised by this sudden glow-up. Mungyu further adds that he chose to walk a different path since that day, and now he has become a promotional figure for the police station. Guangqiol wonders just what Chungil had told Mungyu for him to become so motivated at being a police officer. Mungyu then shows off a rather risque topless photo shoot of himself, which somewhat disgusts Guangqiol. Guangqiol then comes back on topic, asking whether or not Mungyu remembers the whole situation with Minhue's case. Mungyu tells he very much does and that he can't forget. He tells that Minhue's parents had come to the police station to tell them to stop investigating the case, and because they're the parents, they decided to stop. Guangqiol feels relieved knowing things have gone back to how they were. Guangqiol then asks Mungyu if he could give him the files for Minhue's case again, or if there was any new information that was uncovered that Guangqiol doesn't yet know about. Mungyu asks Guangqiol whether he still hasn't give up or not. He then tells him that he understands the sentiment and would investigate the case again, but he needs to be prepared because this is not the Mungyu of the old, so this case will be investigated in a much more mature and serious manner. Back to 2003, we see Chungil trying to call modern-day Guangqiol, but to no avail. We then see the 2003 Guangqiol asking Sihu if it is really okay for him to keep lending his phone to Chungil, to which he says that he already has enough things to worry about than this. Another one of his friends add that Chungil doesn't seem like a bad person, but he still hides a lot of things, but that isn't much of an issue because he isn't causing them any harm. We see Mungyu arriving to scene. His friends tease him by calling him the people protector and a future officer, but he brushes it off and asks Sihu if he still distrusts Chungil. Siha says he kinda finds him a bit weird and mysterious, but Mungyu says that Chungil has already helped him twice, so he won't be going against him ever again. We then see Chungil returning Sihu's phone, saying his father didn't pick up. Sihu wonders just what is up with Chungil, cause despite seeming like a good person, there is something off about him. They then wonder where Minhui is, and we see Minhui at the prison, talking to her brother Taiki. She asks Taiki just what is he doing and whether or not he likes living like a trash. Taiki tells her to piss off. She then asks whether Taiki wants to start his own gang or what. Does he really not even care Taekwondo, which he loved and was a national team member at one point? Taiki gets pissed again, but we see Chungil arriving to the scene. We see Chungil stand beside Minhui and tell her that nothing would get into the head of a person like Taiki. He then tells Taiki that people get to live once and that they eventually die, and Taiki just wants to waste his life being a thug. He clearly doesn't realize the magnitude of his crime. He tells him that he was starting a rigged gambling game, which would put him behind the bars for 5 years. Taiki is shocked but says that it isn't anything illegal. The last time he checked, the Story of the Sea, which is the name of the game, is considered a legitimate arcade game, hence why it is not a gambling game. Sihu then realizes that the game would eventually be considered an illegal gambling game in the future, but at this point it is still legal, so he can't do anything with that. We then hear a mysterious voice asking Chungil how he knows about the Story of the Sea game and its connection to gambling. We see Taiki getting nervous upon seeing the person, asking just why is there. Chungil wonders who this person is. Meanwhile, in the modern day, we see Guangqiul and Mengyu inspecting near a building. Guangqiul tells that he expected something grand when Mengyu said this will be a serious investigation and if this was it. Mengyu tells him that the public's tax shouldn't be wasted rashly. Mengyu also tells that he feels very anxious coming back to this building where Min Wei had passed away. He also has a promotional screening soon. He says he made a fake warrant case to investigate here and that if someone finds out, his salary would decrease. Guangqiul feels at ease hearing all this. Mengyu then tells him that they will first investigate who benefited the most from Min Hui's death because if it was a murder, there must be some sort of motivation for them to carry it out. Guangqiul questions if someone would go so far as to murdering her and Mengyu tells that he thinks there might be a few people who would but they're all members of the Gold Castle faction now, which is a very influential group. Guangqiul asks if that's the same faction with Quac Dango in it as the action head. Mengyu confirms it to be so. He asks Guangqiul if he remembers all the things Dango had done to Sihu after joining the faction. That's why Mengyu wants to investigate Dango first. Guangqiul wonders if Dango is involved in all this, then it must mean that he has already gotten involved with Chungil back in 2003. Back to 2003, we see the mysterious person is none other than Quac Dango, who wonders who Chungil is, and as he is standing next to Min Wei, it must mean that he is on Sihu's side, but as he has never seen Chungil before, he is more curious as to what kind of connection he really has with Sihu and company. We see a flashback depicting the life of Quac Dango, the action head of the Golden Star faction. We see Dango sleeping in his classroom despite the class going on and a teacher being present. The teacher keeps telling Dango to wake up but to no avail. He was nicknamed No Touch for his delinquent behavior and outright denial to get along with other people in any way. We then see Quac Dango playing pool and bumping into a senior delinquent. While doing so, the senior calls him names and says that the current generation has no respect for elders and are ignorant. He then says that he should pick out a day to teach these young kids a lesson. Just then, we see Quac Dango using a ball from the pool table, wrapping it around a piece of cloth and hitting the senior with it across his head. This leaves the surrounding all bloodied up. Basically, he was already a thug in the making even at school. We see him giving a card of the Gold Star faction to his teacher, showing him that he is joining the faction and that soon he won't be coming to school. The teacher is bothered by this and wonders what will happen to Dango at this rate. Then we see Dango, who is walking in the school alley, running into Park Sihu. Quac Dango asks Sihu why he's there and Sihu questions if Dango was seriously gonna leave school. Dango tells Sihu that he was indeed going to leave school because his aspirations don't align with coming to school. He tells Sihu that both him and Sihu are poor and that there is no point in them studying. He says he will become Gold Star faction's #1 and if Sihu ever wants to change what he is doing now, he can hit up Quac Dango. Sihu tells Dango that he has no interest whatsoever at changing. Quac Dango asks Sihu again to reassure and Sihu tells him again that he isn't interested. He then says that he is disappointed that Dango is dropping out of middle school just to join some gang. He tells him that he has no interest in hearing what Dango has to say and he doesn't want to become a thug. Quac Dango smirks and says it's fine. He tells Sihu to not come back to him because he already gave him a chance and Sihu rejected. So Sihu can go back to playing house with his friends while Quac Dango can go on to become actually successful in life. Now in 2003, we see Taiki thanking Quac Dango, telling him that he is thankful for the help and that without the help, he would be suffering now. He also tells Dango to tell good to the higher-ups. Quac Dango shuts him up immediately, telling Taiki it was Dango's fault for letting Taiki handle this arcade business to begin with. Taiki tries to apologize, but Quac Dango tells him that from now on, he himself would be taking care of the arcade business. Taiki asks what he will be doing, to which Dango tells him to lay low and reflect on his actions and told him to leave the scene as he wanted to have a private discussion with Chungil. Quac Dango then reconfirms with Chungil that Chungil only did this because he owed one to the arcade owner. That he only happens to be a mere acquaintance of Park Sihu and nothing more, and he only fought the group of thugs because of his connection with the arcade owner. Dango says he understands before snapping out and jokingly says, "You expect me to believe that?" Before seemingly going in for punch to Chungil, but he stops near his face. Chungil is unfazed by all of this and Quac Dango emphasizes how Chungil, who is trying to come off as ordinary, isn't even scared by an attempted punch to the face. Chungil replies by saying that Dango's hips aren't properly rotated. This pisses off Dango, who rotates his hip fully and throws the punch, which is waxed off by the left hand of Chungil. Quac Dango then throws a left jab, which is cross-blocked by Chungil. As Quac Dango keeps throwing a fast combination, Chungil gets mad and throws a lead hook too, which is easily dodged by Dango sidestepping. A police tries to intervene seeing these two fight at a police station, but another officer stops him and warns him about Quac Dango being a member of the Gold Star faction. He tells him to let them off with a warning. Meanwhile, Quac Dango and Chungil keep fighting. Chungil, as Dango keeps throwing relentless lefts and rights, wonders if everyone from his dad's era knew how to box because Dango is boxing very well. Chungil, however, with his MMA knowledge deduces that the boxer would be weak to a low kick. He thinks that despite most modern boxers are aware of this tactic, a boxer from the past would be susceptible to it. And just then, Chungil throws a low kick which was dodged by Dango and followed up by a punch to the face which leaves Chungil bloody. Dango then throws a punch to Chungil's kidney. It is then that Chungil realizes that Quac Dango is called No Touch because not only can't you touch him, but even reach him because of his tremendous speed. However, Dango is impressed that Chungil is still standing after the 2 blows he landed. He says the only other person to keep standing after being attacked by him is Park Si-hoo. He gets more curious as to who Chungil really is, but the police officer comes in to stop them. The officer says there are eyes on them and that they shouldn't be doing this at the police station. Chungil is pissed off by the obvious bias from the police officer. He wonders if police officers were more corrupt before. He also thinks the name of the officer, Bong Jae-dong, is very tacky. We then see in 2021, Bong Jae-dong is now the station chief and he calls Mungyu to ask him why he left with a fake warrant. Mungyu explains it to the chief, telling him how he is reinvestigating Min Hue's case. The chief asks why he is worried about a closed case, to which Mungyu says he feels like he missed something. He wants to investigate the Gold Star faction and Quac Dango in particular. He also requests the chief to not stop him. The chief smirks and says that he won't stop him and that he should try to catch a thug and more police officers should follow his lead. Mungyu is very happy by this response, but Gwangcheol feels it is fishy how the chief isn't pissed about him reinvestigating a closed case and even making a fake warrant. Meanwhile, in the chief's room, we see him asking Quac Dango himself about what he should do about Mungyu and if he remembers what kind of person Mungyu was. Dango says he doesn't remember anything besides the fact that Mungyu was one Si-hoo's friends, and besides, if he finds something memorable about someone, he adds them to the faction. Back to 2003, we see Dango trying his best to recruit Chungil to the Gold Star faction. He tells him how good he is and wants to know where he came from and which school he goes to. Right then, we see Si-hoo creeping up behind Dango, calling him out for letting Taiki loose on the arcade. Dango says he already told Si-hoo that he would attack Si-hoo if he touches him, and he lashes out and tries to attack Si-hoo with a post. However, Si-hoo dodges and throws a punch at Dango with a handcuff wrapped around his knuckles, which Dango dodges, but the punch damages the wall behind him. Chaos erupts as the two look like they're gonna come to blows. We see a flashback to when Quac Dango and Si-hoo fighting a bunch of goons back when they were in middle school. We see Quac Dango doing his inner monologue. He talks about how he wants to be at the top and win every fight he is in, but people need other people to succeed in such fights, and then we see their others friends like Gwangcheol joining in on the fight, which leads to Si-hoo and Quac Dango winning the fight. After the fight, we see an adult coming to the scene and asking if Si-hoo and Ko are middle schoolers. He introduces himself as a member of the Gold Star faction. This makes Quac Dango think he can finally go to the top of Korea by becoming a member of the powerful Gold Star faction. However, soon it dawns on him that it wasn't Quac Dango that was being recruited by the Gold Star faction member, but it was Park Si-hoo. Quac Dango is left devastated, however he still gets shocked when Si-hoo drops the card and refuses to join the Gold Star faction. Quac Dango questions Si-hoo's sanity in rejecting an offer to join such a big and powerful faction. However, Si-hoo explains that he doesn't fight to show off his power or dominate. He fights to protect the friends and the loved ones. Si-hoo then leaves with Minhui, leaving Quac Dango all pissed. Back to the modern day, we see Quac Dango swinging the pole to try and hit Park Si-hoo with it, however he dodges it. Si-hoo then kicks away the pole, leaving Quac Dango weaponless. Dango continues his inner monologue, saying that Si-hoo has always been like this. He always thinks he is better than everyone else, but he isn't better than Dango. We see Dango throwing a lead hook punch to Si-hoo, who dodges it. Dango then speaks out loud, calling Park Si-hoo a disappointment. Says that despite having some use in the past, he is basically useless to Dango now and that he should have been the one to get the Gold Star faction card that day. He says he is on a whole different level as to Si-hoo now and launches a barrage of punches. However, Si-hoo dodges them all with head movement and steps aside on the final blow and tells Quac Dango that he has misunderstood the meaning behind no touch all along. That he is only called no touch because Si-hoo never fought him properly and throws a haymaker punch which is dodged by Dango. Shin Minwi intervenes and shouts for them to stop. Minwi asks if Quac Dango was crazy because what he was doing on police ground was crazy. She says that Sihu did nothing wrong in this altercation because after all, it was Quac Dango's friend who attacked the arcade unprovoked. This angers Quac Dango beyond limit as he quickly slips past Sihu using his otherworldly agility. He goes on to try and hit Shin Minwi with a punch because he is mad at how she is always on Sihu's side and because she always talks a lot. Before the punch could hit her though, Chungil comes in to grab Quac Dango's fist to save his mother. Chungil intercepts and angrily asks Quac Dango why he tried to attack Miss Minwi, almost calling her mom in front of everyone during the heat of the moment. Quac Dango isn't one to back down either. He is mad at Chungil for butting into what he considered his own business. He also wonders to himself why Chungil is doing it and how he managed to stop him now when he couldn't keep up earlier. He asks Chungil why he feels the need to get himself involved in someone else's matter when he isn't even close to Park Sihu. He tells him to stay in his lane. Chungil, still defiant, tells Dango that he isn't just gonna stand and watch a properly trained fighter attack a normal citizen. He also calls out the police, asking if he doesn't see the violence and ruckus being caused by Quac Dango. The police shows anger himself, telling them to stop taking advantage of the police's leniency and to stop immediately. Quac Dango thinks he has had enough and just walks off from the scene, telling everyone to piss off. He further tells everyone that his words won't ever get into the heads of children like them who like to play the role of superheroes protecting their hometown. And he particularly tells Minwi that she should be alert at all times and be on her toes because he will definitely kill her one day. This severely angers Chungil, who is mad at Quac Dango for saying that he would kill his mother in front of him. However, he soon realizes that Dango hates his mother and threatened her openly, and being a member of a big faction puts Quac Dango under suspicion. Chungil also remembers John Guangcheol of 2021 telling him that he has a big doubt about his mother being murdered and that he had to look for clues as to who would do something like that and for what reason. He decides to put Quac Dango on his suspects list. He then walks up to his father, Park Sihu, to ask for his phone to call John Guangcheol of the future. He says to Sihu that he doubts his father is somewhat concerned about his well-being, so he needs Sihu's phone to call him and tell him that he is fine. As Sihu is offering him the phone, he snatches it away from Sihu's hand quickly and creates some distance with the group to make the call. As he calls Guangcheol and starts talking to him, Sihu wonders just what Chungil is hiding and that he wants to uncover it someday. On the phone call, Guangcheol tells Chungil that he was waiting for the call and if everything was going fine. Chungil wastes no time and informs him of his recent run-in with Quac Dango of the Gold Star faction. Guangcheol is shocked hearing this and informs Chungil that he is currently investigating Quac Dango. Chungil is shocked by this sudden information and wonders to himself that this must be really connected to his mother's death if Guangcheol of the year 2021 is investigating this. He thinks that this is probably him slowly putting together a puzzle piece by piece. Guangcheol tells him that things are different in the future and that Quac Dango isn't as accessible to him in the future anymore. So for his next mission in his quest to solving his mother's death mystery, Park Chungil needs to befriend Quac Dango and make him join Sihu's little group of friends. Because if he had been the one to murder Shin Minwi, it must have been because he hated Sihu and his group to death. So for him to not do that, the best option for them would be to become friends, and only Chungil can make that happen. Chungil is really overwhelmed by this new mission of his and wonders if this is even possible for him. After the whole scene, we see Park Chungil lying down next to his father, Park Sihu. He takes in the feeling of all the things that have gone down during the entire day, from the fights to now lying beside Sihu. Chungil also thinks about Guangcheol of 2021 said about Quac Dango and his involvement in the mysterious death of his mother. He also wonders just how he will achieve the new mission given to him by John Guangcheol, the mission of making Quac Dango friends with Sihu and his friend group. Especially after all the things that went down Dango and the arcade, himself, Minwi, and his seemingly long-time history with Park Sihu. However, he wants to take it a step at a time, and he wants to do so by first getting close to his dad and his dad's group himself, because that is the very first step in this long and dangerous game. The morning eventually arrives and we see Chungil sitting down in front of a table full of food. He asks what it is and Sihu responds by saying it is breakfast made by his grandmother because Chungil was sleeping till so late and that she went out after preparing the breakfast for them. Sihu then tells Chungil to start eating and they start doing so. Chungil thinks to himself that this is just the second time ever in his life that he is getting to have food with his father. That being said, he can't really enjoy anything about it because of the lack of peace he has been suffering from lately, worrying about Dango, Mungyu, his own mother, the arcade, and etc. Chungil then thinks about how he can start this all off. Should he start by making Quac Dango and his father come on good terms? But that isn't really important right now. Perhaps he should start by first knowing what kind of person this Quac Dango really is. Sihu sees Chungil distracted and asks whether or not Chungil has decided on which school to go to yet. Chungil nervously starts blabbering. He says that he has decided on a school already and that he is like this at the moment because he is still getting used to the jet lag. Chungil then tries to turn the table and asks Sihu why he didn't go to school despite being a student. It is 3 in the afternoon, yet he is at home, eating breakfast. Sihu then informs Chungil that it is Saturday and that it is a holiday. Chungil is surprised and wonders why is that. It is actually because South Korea only had weekly off days on Saturdays before, which was called Free Saturday for everyone. We then see everyone in Sihu's group hanging out together on this free Saturday. Chungil approaches Shin Min-wee to ask her about Quac Dango. This instantly draws a reaction from everyone involved. They ask why he wants to know about someone like Quac Dango. He says that he was curious since yesterday as it looked like Quac Dango was once a part of their group. They answer saying that no one other than Sihu was ever close with Dango and that he was never really a big part of the group. He transferred out to a school in Dongdaemun, a place known for its fashion and clothing shops. He was cool to hang out with at first and would get along well with the group. However, it became clear pretty soon that he was going down a wrong path after he decided to leave the group out of his own choice. They tell him that they don't know much about him besides that. Chungil goes into panic after knowing that. After all, how is he supposed to get them back together again when they weren't even close to begin with? We then see the 2003 version of John Guangcheol approach Chungil and tell him that despite whatever that happened with Chungil and Quac Dango's gang, and despite him helping them out several times, Chungil is not a part of the group and that they will never be close with someone with a fashion sense like Chungil. Chungil can't help but be amused about how Mr. Guangcheol is making fun of his fashion as Guangcheol tells him how everything from his hair, clothes, and shoes are out of touch and that if he really wants to join their group and be buddies with them, he has to drop his stupid fashion. Despite being pissed, Chungil thinks of a plan that will get him to know the enemy better. He wants to go to Dongdaemun to investigate Quac Dango. He tells Guangcheol that he indeed is a nerd and that he doesn't know what it is like to have fun because all he does is work out. He tells them that he really needed a group of friends like them to get to know the world better, dress better, and become popular. He asks Guangcheol to help him out in this quest. Guangcheol smirks and says that if he really wants the help, he will help him. He tells Chungil to follow him because he knows the perfect place for a fashion noob like him. They take him to Dongdaemun, the place where every rich kid likes to go to and spend their money. The place known as the fashion capital of their nation. Guangcheol then warns Chungil. He tells him to stay attentive because if he slacks off, people will steal his money. Chungil is facing major culture shock as he doesn't really understand what kind of place he is in. He doesn't understand the culture nor the lingo in which people talk as he has never seen this era before. However, he could tell at first glance from how chaotic the place is that it could be compared to hell. We see tons of fighting, argument, and other chaotic scenes as they walk through the market, but Lee Chan-ho, a friend of Sihu's, assures Chungil that they'll be going to a place they know and that the place isn't this extreme. Chungil feels a sense of deja vu as he arrives to a store called Lookism, reference to the author's previous work. The group greets the person they call Taejun Hyung with great warmth and respect. Park Taejun is the name of the author. Taejun asks them to check out the new lot of tank tops that have arrived and says that they should check out the blue ones. Guangcheol tells Chungil to greet their Hyung elder brother properly as he is a legend of sorts in the area of Dongdaemun. Dongdaemun being historically divided between the fashionistas and the stealers, Taejun was once the leader of the fashion fam of the area. He tells Chungil that Taejun knows everyone and everything about Dongdaemun. Chungil asks if he knows Quac Dango too, and Taejun comes close to confrontingly ask what he had just said. We then see people from other stores also coming to the scene upon hearing the name of Quac Dango, asking if the troublemaker had made his way to the area. Chungil wonders just what did Quac Dango do to warrant such a reaction. We then see a group of bullies taking money from a kid and stealing his shoe. It is then that a girl in their group informs them for the arrival of Gandong's Park Sihu, a well-known ulzang, a word to describe attractive students. We then see a rough-looking man getting all fired up at the thought of someone more attractive than him arriving to Dongdaemun. We see a montage of how Dongdaemun is the fashion capital of South Korea and that if you were even a bit into fashion, this was the place for you in the 2000s, a place where everyone could come and enjoy. However, wherever there is light, there is darkness as well, and that is also the case with Dongdaemun, as it is an area known for being very high on juvenile robbery. While it was common for young kids to steal money and bully other students, soon the crime scene really took off thanks to a certain Quac Dango. The era of the Dongbang delinquents began as Quac Dango advised the thieves to not only target school kids but also full-grown adults. As a result, the juvenile crime rate in Dongdaemun became one of the highest. It was a time of chaos, and so Park Tae-jun himself wanted to see who the leader of Dongbang delinquents was. However, it was also a time when the leader of Dongbang delinquents, Quac Dango, decided to transfer schools and leave Dongdaemun, giving the leadership away to the current figurehead duo. We see Park Tae-jun telling this story to Cha-gil, who finds it very shocking for something like this to have taken place, but he understands why Quac Dango is so hated now. Tae-jun adds that the Dongbang delinquents still pay taxes to Quac Dango because of his involvement with some gang. Anyway, Tae-jun further says that he knows that Dango got close with a few people in Gandong. However, he is aware that he didn't get close with everyone in the group, and that is why he got along and became good friends with the group. Tae-jun then asks just what kind of clothes they want, and Gwang-cheol tells him that they're here to buy clothes from Chung-gil. Tae-jun warns them that he wants cash, and Gwang-cheol says that Chung-gil would handle it, but as he turns around, Chung-gil is gone. We then see Chung-gil thinking to himself while walking alone. He understands that Quac Dango got where he is today by starting a small group of thieves, and he already knows what he needs to do to get more information. He decides that he wants to get robbed. He thinks that by getting robbed, he will meet the Dongbang delinquents, and from there, he will be able to gain intel on Quac Dango. We then see a local competition going on about finding out the best dressed person. Chung-gil finds it absurd but also knows that he can use this as an opportunity. Just then, he gets called up to the stage. Chung-gil is initially shocked, but he is called above, so he joins the competition. Chung-gil thinks of this as a good opportunity and wants to play along to get to his destination. We then see the host asking everyone to introduce themselves, but Chung-gil finds it funny how something like this was considered a cool thing back then. Then the host asks Chung-gil to introduce himself, and Chung-gil tells everyone that he is from Gandong. The host tells him that he will get freebies cause the host is also from Gandong. He then asks for Chung-gil's name, which Chung-gil almost says but stops as he wonders if it is okay to do it. The host tells him it is fine if he doesn't want to reveal his name. Instead, they ask for his age, to which Chung-gil says he is 23. Chung-gil reconfirms to himself that all of this is to get a shot at meeting Quac Dango's friend. We then see the group looking for Chung-gil, Gwang-cheol looking towards the stairs, and Sihu and Min-wee looking at other places. Min-wee is very worried as to where Park Chung-gil could really be and whether or not he will get into trouble. Park Sihu tells her it is fine, but things might get a bit dangerous. Min-wee is still worried, and Sihu tells her it is fine again and that he doesn't get it why Min-wee is worried for a stranger like Park Chung-gil. Min-wee then finally tells Sihu the secret. She tells him that Chung-gil told her about being a secret member of Sihu's family. Sihu is shocked by Min-hue's sudden revelation. We then see the start of the Who is the most popular competition. We see all kinds of people dancing in their own different ways. We also see Chung-gil pulling out some comical dance moves. The host tells him to move his hips more and also tells him that he dances in a bizarre way, probably because he hung out with some weird people. Anyway, the contest ends with Jonggro's hottest middle schooler Nam Hoyeon picking up the win. We see Chung-gil admitting that he did enjoy parts of that event unintentionally, but is happy that his plan seemingly worked out as tons of delinquent-looking guys are checking him out. Just when he is about to leave, the host stops him and offers to give him the freebies. The host tells him to wait outside so that he can give Chung-gil the freebies. Soon after, we see a bunch of thugs, including the host, surrounding Park Chung-gil. They tell them that he is the target of the Dongbang delinquents. They call him the Ulzang from Gandong in a jacket. We then see the rough-looking man from before, calling himself the Ulzang of Dongdaemun, Hamgukyeon. He also asks Chung-gil if he is Park Sihu. Chung-gil is freaked out by this and wonders who this guy is. We then see another rough-looking guy coming from behind, asking if Chung-gil was Sihu. He is unimpressed by Sihu's looks and thinks that not only do they look better than him, but even Quac Dango looks better than him. We then learn that these two are twins and the figurehead leaders of Dongbang delinquents who are mad at Sihu for showing up. They then tell Park Chung-gil to strip as that is the rule of Dongdaemun, he won't ask nicely again. The Dongbang delinquents keep asking Chung-gil to strip. They ask him to strip everything from his jersey to his shoes. Chungil seems conflicted about this as they keep telling him to do so. They ask Chungil if he knows Quac Dango, as he is from Gandong. This is when Park Chungil realizes that he is in the correct situation. He has been caught by people who are close to Quac Dango, and it is his best chance to get information from them. Chungil asks one of the leaders if Chungil can have a private conversation with them. A physical conversation, as he likes to put it. Meanwhile, in the present day of 2021, we see John Guangcheol and Choi Mungyu enter the house in which Shin Min-wee passed away. The house has been empty ever since the day Min-wee passed away. However, they're back in the house to investigate her case again. They decide to check the synopsis of the case before starting again. The incident happened in August 21st of 2007 at approximately 1 a.m. The location was a house registered to Park Si-hoo's name in Gandong-gu, Seoul, South Korea. According to the witnesses, Min-wee had arrived home at 9:30 p.m. and that is when she started a fight with her husband, which continued till 10 p.m. Then at approximately 1 a.m. at night, Park Si-hoo left the house after the fight. Just after, the last call from Shin Min-wee, which was a 3-minute and 30-second call to her mother, was done. No further calls or messages were sent from her account after that. At about 4:30 a.m. in the morning, Park Si-hoo returned to the house to see his wife, poisoned by gas, laying on the floor. She was rushed to an emergency room, but at around 7:30 a.m. she passed away from the poisoning. The police concluded it to be a general case of suicide. Many blamed Park Si-hoo as it was the fight with him which probably caused her to take her own life. However, no one really knows that answer because Si-hoo fled after that incident. Quac Dango holds a major key to the case. It is assumed that the fight was also about him. Dango held jealousy towards Park Si-hoo. So he always threatened Si-hoo, and Si-hoo tried to stay away, but Min-wee wanted it to be confronted and dealt with for Chungil's safety. This was the reason why they fought that day. Guangcheol says that despite this, Dango had an alibi that night, but Mungyu suggests that it could have just been a fake one. Guangcheol is shocked, but Mungyu explains that while he was making a fake warrant, he saw some stuff that could have traced back to the involvement of the Gold Star faction. They come to a conclusion that there must be a Fraxia in the police. Someone who misleads an investigation. Just then, they hear footsteps and get scared. It is one of the Gold Star faction members reporting about Mungyu and Guangcheol. As Mungyu and Guangcheol walk out, they also notice Quac Dango, who is present there himself. Dango observes the duo and says that he will kill them for restarting this old case. Mungyu and Guangcheol quickly walk out of the apartment. They're paranoid and are wondering how Dango got tipped off about them. However, this makes it sure that it was indeed the Gold Star faction behind the death of Min-wee. Guangcheol thinks to himself that no one other than Chungil can help them now. Back to 2003, we see Chungil locking in one of the Shin twins into an R-bar. Like before, this move has everyone surprised as they can't help but see it as an homoerotic action. The other Shin brother comes in and tries to attack Chungil, even though the rule of Dong Demon is to not interfere in a one-on-one battle. That being said, Chungil gets up and lands a devastating axe kick to his opponent, busting him open. He lands a couple of punches and goes into inner monologue. He calls himself not Park Si-hoo, but Park Chungil, the Korean mixed martial arts prodigy. Someone who was trained by Guangcheol in a sporty manner from a very young age. He has it running in his blood through his father, Park Si-hoo. And the fight with Park Si-hoo aside, Chungil has no losses. Being trained in the best modern martial arts, MMA, Park Chungil won't just lose to nobodies like the Shin twins as he beats them both to a pulp. He then gets up and tells everyone who are freaked out that he isn't Park Si-hoo, however, he was looking for them. He asks them about Quac Dango. Everyone goes into panic, but one of the girls tries to message Quac Dango about this. Chungil catches her trying to message Dango and snatches her phone. He makes fun of the old phone design before reading the message, which was intended for Dango. The message was telling Dango that a person from Gandong had beaten up the Shin twins. Chungil has a laugh about it before he edits the message and sends it to Dango himself. Park Chungil shows everyone the message he sent Quac Dango, and it surprises everyone. They can't believe that he sent a message to Quac Dango saying, "I miss you." The girl is blushing and worried because he sent that message. Park Chungil has a bit of fun teasing her, asking if her and Quac Dango have a thing going on between them. He asks if she has a crush on him or hot. He also explains the reason why he sent the message to Quac Dango. He says that he sent it so that Dango would come to the scene soon. Just then, one of the twins, Shin Sam, wakes up and creeps up behind Chungil. He says the fight is not over and hits Chungil with a shot to the midsection. Chungil bleeds a bit from his mouth, while Shin Sam tells him that he thought that Chungil must have been a fighter from Pride FC or K. 1, but that doesn't matter in Dong Demon because you have to wait for your opponent to get back up and fight till he can't anymore. Chungil gets back up and goes toe-to-toe with Shinsam. They trade some blows. Chungil lands 2 very incisive kicks to Shinsam's knees, and when he goes down to a knee, he lands a sharp front kick. Chungil says he is willing to fight the Dong Demon way, and the two start going at it, blow for blow, matching each other. On the other hand, Siho is confused about this whole situation with Chungil claiming to be his family. He asks why Chungil said that to Minwee of all people and what kind of family even is he. Minwee tells him that Chungil told him to hide the fact that they were family, but she knows that Chungil is a hidden member of his family. She tells Sihu that his father probably remarried and was close to Chungil during his final days because Chungil was so close in age to Sihu. Siho remembers a memory with his father, which seems to be his only memory with him. His father told him that the Park family have a deep history. Sihu has a slight mental breakdown as he wonders just what is going on. However, he quickly recuperates himself and decides to go find Chungil and ask him about this man-to-man. Back to the fight, Shinsam and Chungil are duking it out like an old hoss fight. Shinsam trash talks Chungil, says that him being undefeated and all makes no difference to him and that the mistake Chungil committed will lead to dire consequences. The mistake here by Chungil being that he messaged Quac Dango to call him to Dong Demon. The Shin twins and the rest of the Dong Bang delinquents don't want any more of Quac Dango. We go to a flashback where Quac Dango had seemingly beaten both Shinsam and Shinsang to pulps. He tells Shinsam to resort to using weapons against adults when they're losing. He tells them that no matter if someone is an adult or a school student, a weapon could beat everyone and scare everyone. Shinsam says that according to him, using a weapon might take it too far. This angers Quac Dango, so he beats down an already beat up Shinsam. He calls him incompetent for not being able to do such a basic thing. Shinsang can't stand this and is seen trying to attack Quac Dango, but he is also beaten up by Dango. We then see the brothers following the orders given by Dango. They commit robberies and collect the money to give Quac Dango to cut. They're doing it and are given goals by Dango to reach every day. As the goal starts getting harder and harder to reach, and with Quac Dango bullying them into attacking and stealing from adults too, some of the kids are tired of it and try to use Quac Dango's criminal past to move him out of the school he is in and henceforth make him transfer out of Dong Demon. However, Quac Dango makes it clear that he still wants his cut given to him regularly even though he is transferring away. He also tells them that he will eventually come back and get them if things aren't moving right. They don't want him back, so they go full rogue and try to pay off the cut as smoothly as possible. And that is why Chungil calling Quac Dango is a mistake and Shinsam is mad because they don't want to face that man again. Chungil is pissed off by this. He can't understand why they're following the orders of a person they hate so much and are sucking off to him. Chungil goes all out and starts to take out Shinsam. His rage hits top as he uses an uppercut to the chest to knock Shinsam down for good. Before Chungil could relax, he sees everyone surrounding him. He wonders how he will deal with such a huge group. Surprisingly though, they all go down to their knees and accept defeat. They tell Chungil that they've lost and that from now on, Chungil is their new leader. Because in Dong Demon, the strongest leads and the loser submits. Chungil has another culture shock moment. He doesn't know why people were like this during the 2000s. However, he accepts the role even though reluctant. He then asks them if they're really not friends with Dango, to which they say they're not. Chungil is conflicted now that the people he thought could give him intel on Quac Dango are not his friends. He does understand that Quac Dango has no redeeming quality and that he is as evil as they come. However, something randomly pops into his head which he calls to be the foolproof plan, a plan that will help him make Dango a friend and a member of the Sihu fam. He asks everyone if they know about the Summit Wars. On the other side, we see the squad still looking for Park Chungil. They're worried about what must have happened to him. John Guangcheol in particular is very worried. He says that Park Chungil keeps disappearing out of nowhere on them. Just at that very moment, we see Park Chungil come to where Sihu and Ko are on the shoulders of Shinsang and Shinsam, being announced as Emperor Suyang, the 7th ruler of the Korean dynasty, considered a legend for his martial arts skill. Chungil proudly tells the gang that he has arrived. We then see what was going inside Chungil's head. Chungil talked to the Dombang delinquents about their dislike for Quac Dango. He says that he understands why no one likes Quac Dango. He thinks to himself that Quac Dango must have been a golden boy, the kind of kid who are overly pampered by their parents to the point that they become arrogant and sporadic. No wonder why he has such an explosive personality. He then remembers a conversation he had with John Guangcheol of the future where Guangcheol tells Chungil that Quac Dango has always been the competitive and jealous type. how he couldn't accept the fact that Gold Star faction chose Sihu over him initially. This is when he started hating on Sihu and when he started doing all kinds of bad work for Gold Star faction to get in and bet big within the ranks. Quac Dango has no friends and he only believes in hierarchy. He somewhat considered the Dongbang delinquents to be his friends despite also being the top of the hierarchy in that group too. However, once he was ratted out by one of the Dongbang delinquents, he lost belief in friendship altogether. That's when Chungil realized that talking to Quac Dango would be useless. He needs to be shown this shift in the trajectory directly. Chungil then gathers the Dongbang delinquents and Sihu fam in line, telling them about how they must work together to take out the mighty Quac Dango. The Sihu fam is shocked by this sudden move from Chungil. We then also see the fashion fam, led by Park Taejun, arrive to the scene. Chungil tells everyone that they're gonna be finishing off Quac Dango today. Park Taejun gets into a slight altercation with Shinsam. They almost get into a fight, but Chungil breaks it up. Shinsam explains that they're not on Quac Dango's side, they were only doing it because they were forced. Park Taejun then says that it is a bit of an overkill to gather so many people to beat up just Quac Dango, and Sihu agrees. However, Dongbang delinquents say that if the fight takes place in Dong Demon style, someone as strong as Quac Dango could sweep them all. Chungil tells everyone that they shouldn't expect it to be an all versus one fight because Quac Dango will surely be coming with some handy backup. We then see an angry Quac Dango come to the fighting area with tons of Gold Star faction goons. He is flanked by the top lieutenant Sun Kaiying as well. One of the Dongang delinquents tries to walk up to Dango but gets uppercut into oblivion. Dango means business because you don't message him, I miss you to mess with him. We see the Shin brothers stepping up next. Dango tells them that he is aware of what those two were up to behind his back and then throws right crosses to both the brothers one by one and take them out. We then see him turn his attention to Park Sihu, someone he can't wait to fight, but Park Taejun steps up for the occasion, going face to face with a much bigger Quac Dango. We see a flashback of when Quac Dango had received that message from Park Chugil. He was playing pool with Taiki and Ko while he got the message saying, I miss you. Everyone started joking about Quac Dango having a girlfriend, but Quac Dango denies it, saying he isn't the type to be involved in girl-related matters. However, the messages keep coming in and it passes off Quac Dango. After arriving, Quac Dango had already beaten up a few guys including the Shin twins, and just when he found out that his arch-nemesis, Park Sihu, was right there, he was ready to pick a fight, but up stepped Park Taejun. Despite being a man with a frail-looking body, Taejun steps up and takes his shirt off to show Dango all the battle scars he has. Taejun asks Quac Dango if he remembers him. We see a flashback of the Dong Demon delinquents bullying and trying to get money off of an elderly man. The man was resisting, so an angry Quac Dango came in with a wooden stick and beat up the man. He was mad because his group didn't properly attack the person because he was an adult. As they steal money from him, they realize that despite being a merchant, the person didn't have enough money on them. Soon, they realize the elderly person stopped moving after Quac Dango attacked him, and under panic, they fled the scene. The elderly man was rushed to the hospital and went into a coma. The elderly man was the uncle of Park Taejun, who was a much bigger and muscular man back then. Fortunately, Uncle did wake up about a month later, and Taejun, who had waited for the moment, asked his uncle who had done this to him. Initially dumbfounded, his uncle soon told him that it was a kid with a stick who had attacked his uncle. Park Taejun then went on a rampage tour, beating up every thief in the vicinity to know just who had done it. From one such person who he had taken down, Park Taejun received the information that it could have been done by the Dongbang delinquents and Quac Dango. He then got intel on Quac Dango being a member of the Gold Star faction. Taejun didn't waste any time and went straight to the main office of the Gold Star faction to meet Quac Dango. As tons of guards and many seniors of Quac Dango tried to stop him, they all felt the wrath of Park Taejun as he beat up everyone in his path. Quac Dango tells Taejun that he doesn't quite remember who he is, but he assumes that he was the person who had attacked the main office of Gold Star faction to get a piece of Dango. Back to the flashback, we see that the numbers game eventually caught up to the brave Taejun as he laid flat on his chest in a lake of blood. The seniors of the Gold Star faction were impressed that Quac Dango had already found such a strong enemy and decides to promote him to action chief. After that, Park Taejun was admitted to the hospital in a life or death situation. His aunt told him to leave this extreme life and focus on a more peaceful life, hence how he has become now. Back to the fight, Tae tells Quac Dango that he should treat Taejun because he was the reason why Quac Dango got promoted to action chief. Quac Dango agrees and decides to treat Park Taejun with his fist. Dango throws a jab, which Taejun slips past. This shocks Dango, but he keeps punching, and Taejun keeps dodging with his incredible speed. Taejun also starts attacking, but Dango dodges them. Dango is surprised by Taejun's speed but doesn't think much of him and tries to take him out, but Taejun goes past him, uses a wall to perform a flip to blindside Dango. Taejun then throws a punch that was very close to hitting Dango, but this gives Dango the chance to land the shot he thinks will finish off Taejun. However, he doesn't get all of the body hook he lands, and it allows Taejun to lock Dango's hand under his arm. Then with Quac Dango locked up, Taejun says that Dango should have been more careful around people like him, whose life goal is to only get back to Dango. As he says that, he lands a thunderous punch to Quac Dango's face, making him bleed, finally penetrating through the defense of Mr. No Touch. Quac Dango wonders how him, who is never easily beat, who is never touched, and whose speed is unmatchable, was now suddenly hurt by a frail man like Park Taejun. This angers him beyond limits, and he starts hitting and connecting Park Taejun with body hooks and jabs to the face. Taejun still stays calm and continues to take on the blows from a much angrier and much faster Quac Dango. On the other side, we see Sun Kyung, the top lieutenant of Gold Star faction, coming towards Sihu. He tells him that it has been a while since the day Kyung gave Sihu the invitation to join the Gold Star faction. Back then, Sihu told him that he doesn't want to be a gangster. However, here is Sihu involved in a fight between gangsters. He basically calls Sihu a hypocrite for being involved in this kind of stuff. Sihu goes in for a punch right away, but Kyung dodges the cross and gets ready himself. He puts on brass knuckles and gets ready to smack Sihu with it. Just at that moment, Chungil intercepts and lands a jumping push kick to the midriff of Kyung. This surprises Kyung, but Chungil tells him that he shouldn't be against a 2-on-1 when he is using a full-fledged weapon. So we see the father and son duo of Park Sihu and Park Chungil team up and get ready to fight Sun Kyung. Kyung goes in to attack them, but Siha lands a proper punch to his face and sending him back quite a bit. Park Chungil is ready to take Kyung out, but Siha warns him about Kyung, calling Kyung a strong foe. Back to the future of 2021, we see Choi Mung-yu and John Gwangcheol walking away from the tense moment they had with Gold Star faction. They wonder if the Gold Star faction are following them, and just when they say that, they find out they're surrounded all over by the people of Gold Star faction. Mung-yu asks Gwangcheol how many guys he can take on at once. Mung-yu can take up to 3. Gwangcheol says he got older and can take on about 2 guys. Just then we see the gangsters bringing out a knife, and Gwangcheol going back on his word saying that he might not be able to take on even one of them. We then see the 2021 version of Quac Dango coming out, asking Mung-yu and Gwangcheol if those two were friends of Sihu. He says they fought back in the days at Dong Demon, referring to the ongoing fight in 2003. John Gwangcheol gets mad at Quac Dango and directly tells him that Dango must have been the one who killed Minwi and is now trying to cover it up, all because he was jealous of Sihu. Dango smirks and tells something to John Gwangcheol before telling his underlings to use knives to kill Gwangcheol and Mung-yu so they can send regards to their best friend. We cut back to the fight in 2003 where we see Park Chungil with a cut on his cheek, bleeding. The cut was made by Kyung, who is surprised that Chungil can fight but tells him to run away. However, we see Chungil throwing a fast and impactful combo to get back to Kyung. However, Chungil was stabbed by a knife around his chest by Kyung. Chungil goes down and Park Sihu is seriously worried about Chungil. Kyung says that Chungil should run away and tries to use his phone to attend to other businesses. Just then, Chungil kicks his phone away and tells everyone that he will never run away and that he must win this fight for everyone he cares about, for her, referring to Minwi, for her to have a better and longer life. Kyung is weirded out by this sudden declaration from Chungil. However, just as they're about to engage in a fight, we see Shin Minwi asking Chungil who had done this to him with a knife in her hand. Everyone is shocked as to why she is there, but Minwi looks very mad. She keeps asking who had done this to her family. Chungil suddenly remembers that his mother was always skilled at using a knife and that she had a nickname. The nickname being Cobra. We see a flashback of a bunch of boys trying to record an amateur video of them showing off their knowledge about the girls from nearby school. However, when asked about Shin Minwi, they drop their equipments and try to flee. They tell how dangerous of a woman Minwi is and how that is a name that shouldn't be taken in vain. Back to the fight, we see Minwi asking once again who had done this to her family while approaching Sun Kyung with a knife. Kyung is unfazed and warns Minwi by telling her that she shouldn't be acting all capable just because she has a knife. She stands no chance against him. Just then, Kyung starts backing away. He backs away because he saw the cobra. The cobra that signifies how dangerous Shin Minwi really is, and not just any cobra but a giant king cobra. As Sun Kaiying is scared and is trying to back away, we see Sihu land a cross right that takes down and bangs Kaiying down to the ground. Sihu then tells Chungil to stop Minwi at all costs, and Chungil tries to do so, but just then we see Park Tae-jun fly past Minwi, all beaten up by the evil Quac Dango. Chungil wonders just what kind of monster this Quac Dango really is. Dango thanks Tae-jun for warming him up as he moves forward and beats up countless amounts of people at once. As Dango is moving forward, Siha steps up wanting to fight him. Chungil decides to stay out of it because this is a fight that is meant to amend the differences between Sihu and Dango, so this needs to be one-on-one. Dango tells Sihu that he isn't on the same level as himself and that he stands no chance. Sihu still takes stance, and to demonstrate that he is leagues above, Dango tries to land a quick jab to Sihu, which was close, but Sihu dodged it. Then the two started going all out as they attack and dodge relentlessly. The spectators of the fight call it the fastest showdown they've ever seen. Heck, they can't even see it, that's how fast they're going. As some distance is created, Quac Dango asks Sihu just why is he doing this? Does he still want to show off to everyone that he is better than Dango, he asks. Sihu honestly answers the question saying that he doesn't intend to show off to anyone about anything. For him it has always been the same, he just enjoys dueling with Quac Dango. Saying so, Siha starts doing the Dempsey roll, a boxing technique where you move your head side by side to slip past your opponent's punch and create an opening to throw a devastating counter-punch. Invented by the great boxer Jack Dempsey and popularized by Iron Mike Tyson. Quac Dango smirks and goes in to fight Sihu, however, Sihu dodges all of the punches and lands a flurry of punches himself to beat out Quac Dango. Chungil says to himself, even though they fought that day, the few sincere words said between the showdown seriously changed the future. Back to 2021, we see John Guangcheol and Choi Mungyu down on the ground, bleeding out from knife wounds. Guangcheol soon passes out wondering if that's the end for him. However, later, he wakes up in an hotel room and besides him is Mungyu. He asks Mungyu if he is okay and Mungyu says he is. Guangcheol thinks that Chungil must have fixed things and saved him, and at that moment, Quac Dango shows up and starts talking to John Guangcheol and Choi Mungyu in a very friendly manner. Guangcheol is left shocked and wonders what just went down.